Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Mysidia Post. My name is Alex Scott,
My name is Travis Pfeifer.
and we're here to talk about the light and dark cards for Opus 10. And we're also going to be covering some of our favorite cards for Opus 10. Just for your, knowledge, this is the first review video that we filmed after Worlds has happened. So Worlds was just the last 2 days, and we might already have different opinions about some cards having seen them at Worlds, whereas in all the previous set reviews, we did those pre-Worlds, just so that might be kind of something to keep in mind. Okay, so we're going to start off with Citra, which is our light hero card for Opus 10. Citra is a 3 CP 7k forward job, Sworn 6 of Palladia, and she has an EX burst on her effect. Her effect is when Citra enters the field, choose one summon or monster in your break zone, add it to your hand. She also has an action ability, discard one light card, choose one forward. It cannot attack or block this turn. So this card has already seen a ton of play at Worlds, so we can we already know that it's good. And just in general, this card was always going to be good because it's an on-curve forward that has an EX burst and just a recursion that should 100% hit and constructed because you've built a deck around her. So this just means that she's essentially a 1 CP 7k, which is amazing. And the fact that she can recur any summon or monster is just flat out dirty. Like it's a crazy card, and I can't really believe they printed this one and the other one that we're going to talk about, because every single element now has access to recursion in a big way, and we already saw what a crazy issue that can be with Water Wind, with the Water Wind decks now having access to get Valfor's back, and then as soon as they get a Valfor back, they can recharge all of their CP and just do a bunch more stuff. Not to mention it brings back Fanfritz, it brings back Diabolos and more. So I mean, this is pretty much a shoe-in for any deck that runs enough summons or maybe even monsters to just kind of have this powerful recursion. And then of course it has an action ability that you might not use as much. I mean, you might if you run 3 Citra, but it's not a bad action ability. It's very serviceable, and it helps you get rid of light cards from your hand, which is something that can be an issue when you play a lot of light cards.
Yeah, this card is nuts. I pulled 2 of these, both foil, during my pre-release, and I also pulled a Refia. And so I actually played Citra because of that action ability, because I knew I had 2 other light cards, and I got to use it. And that action ability is incredibly strong. First of all, it's great because, you can't pitch light or dark cards for CP, so now you can pitch one without the CP requirement. And what makes it particularly strong is it cannot attack or block. And that's important because it means you can use it on either your opponent's turn or your turn. And you can keep them from attacking you, or you can keep them from blocking you. And I've been on the wrong end of that too, where I just forgot the ability existed because I'm not used to playing that card that much. And I'm like, okay, I've got a blocker, I'll be fine. They're like, oh, it can't block. I'm like, oh, no. And that's how I won one of my pre-release matches, is my opponent didn't know that, and he had the Black Tortoise Gilgamesh C. And I was like, that's nice. It can't block. And they're like, uh-oh, swung in. Yeah, the fact that it's an EX burst, man, I've had to face some people running this in like mono water, and just like you mentioned, Water Wind, and with Porum especially, like, God, it just feels like they never run out of summons. You're like, she comes in, summon. Porum goes to the break zone, summon. She comes in. It's just like, oh my goodness, like, just the summon parade never ends. The artwork is, of course, great amount of artwork. Yeah, this card is crazy. Like, I thought it would be solid, and to see it just kind of wreck the scene at Worlds too was, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's everything you want. On-curve body, great entry effect. And if anything, you could almost argue this card outclasses Porum a little, just because it's enter the field. Whereas Porum, because Porum has to go to the break zone, there are certain cards that can mess with that and make it so Porum's effect won't go off. But as we know, there's almost nothing that stops enter the field effects. So yeah, like, are you really going to burn an Ishtola on this? Probably not. So yeah, this card is crazy, crazy good. And yeah, it's awesome.
So the one thing that I do really like, well, I like a lot about it, but I think that I'm super on the fence about them printing it. The one thing that's pretty cool about it is that Light always gets these niche cards, and Dark always gets these super serviceable cards. And then finally, this is just like a Light staple that can see play in any deck, kind of similar to Light Zidane was back in the day, and
Right.
still kind of is in some decks. So I just like that Light did get something that's not super build around, kind of like the next card.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I've always thought that too. It's like, man, Light always has these cards that like you have to like put it into a certain deck, and Dark can just go anywhere. I'm looking at you, Veritas. So yeah, I'm glad that changed. Next card. So next we have Refia, which is our other Light character. This is the Light legend of the set. I pulled 2 of these that were foil, and I think I pulled a full art foil. Beautiful card.
Wow.
Love the artwork. Artwork across Opus 10 has just been fantastic. So 5 cost, 8k forward. Job Warrior of Light, which is important. When Refia enters the field, you may search for one card named Arc, card named Ingus, or card named Luneth of cost 4 or less and play it onto the field. When Refia attacks, choose one forward opponent controls. If you control 4 or more Job Warrior of Light forwards, remove it from the game. So in the best case scenario, this card is fantastic. I've seen a Warrior of Light deck that uses it, and when it starts going, yeah, I mean, it's basically game right there. It's so strong. It's a little disappointing that it has that attachment that it's the card of the other characters from 3 that they have to be 4 cost or less, because it means you can't use that new 5 cost arc we got with this set. And this card is so specific too. I just don't think it needed that. Like, I think it should have just been card Arc, Ingus, or Luneth. I get that, okay, well, maybe in the future if they print another one of those cards, like, this card would get stronger, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, this is already a 5 cost card, so it has all the weaknesses a 5 cost does. And it's so niche. It has to fit into this very, specific archetype. So I don't think that would have been unreasonable to just be any card name, Arc, Ignis, or Luneth. Obviously, the drawback of this is that you have to build around it, because otherwise it's not going to work. One thing I do like is on her second effect, a lot of times effects like these will say other than the card itself, so like other than Refia, but that's not a requirement. It's just a total of 4 Job Warrior of Light forwards, so she can be counted as one of them. So yeah, when it goes, and it's really awesome, but especially compared to Citra, which can just fit in anywhere, you have to build around this card.
Yeah, so I think it actually would have been too strong with this 5 CP arc, because you're playing 2 forwards and reactivating possibly 3 of your backups. Mm-hmm. So this would become like a 2 CP play 2 cards from your, and like 1 you're playing a card from your deck. So I feel like that would have been some pretty insane tempo. I mean, you have to set up and everything, but I don't know. I kind of get it. It's cool because there's an arc backup. There's a Refia backup. Oh, sorry. I guess that's not really relevant for constructed for Refia, but you can play an arc backup with this. And yeah, I think it's cool that it's when it attacks, because it's like constantly going to be a threat. Your opponent's always going to be worried that you're going to play some Warrior of Lights, and then all of a sudden she's online and she just swings and takes out a forward. And yeah, I honestly haven't played with this card yet, so I only pulled 1. So I think it's pretty cool for Warrior of Lights, and then otherwise it's just another niche Light legendary.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have Hein, which was also featured at Worlds in quite a few decks, and there's a reason why. He's a 4 CP forward, Job Mage, 9,000 power, and which is above curve. So
yeah, that's above curve. If he was 8, what a difference that would make.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's all the difference. So I don't know that he'd see play at 8, just because if he trades, he doesn't need protection anymore. Like, he needs protection because your opponent can't trade with him. So discard 1 card, name 1 element. Hein cannot be chosen by summons or abilities of the named element, and doesn't receive damage from summons or abilities of the named element until the end of this turn. So basically, by discarding any card, he becomes able to protect himself and blank anything that's targeting him. And then he also has a 3 CP doll Hein, and you can choose up to 2 characters and doll them. You can only use fire, ice, or lightning CP to use this ability. I think this one is pretty niche. If you're really wanting to use this ability, then in Ice and Lightning, you won't have a problem using that ability because you already have a ton of Dull. And then in Fire, if that was like so important to you, would you not just be running Yuri instead? Because it might be mono Fire, you can just do Dull Freezing that way. But it's not a bad ability to have on a forward. I just feel like that it's kind of like an extra, and that his protection is really what is amazing. And I have seen that reaction online. I've seen a lot of people say, well, he should just be 8k, it would be totally fair. But if he was 8k, he would trade so easily that you would just never use his protection ability, and no one would be using removal on him because you just played a 4 CP 8k. So I think that he had to be 9k and then have this protection, otherwise he just wouldn't be nearly as good a card, and I don't know if we would have even seen him at Worlds.
Yeah. A mono artwork looks great. Love it. I love his pose. He's got his cape pulled up around him, and he's got kind of this skeletal smirk on. Looks great. And you actually just brought up a good point, because I thought that too. Like, well, why can't he just be 8k? But you're right. Like, it'd be so much easier to trade with him, and he really needs the 9k to be imposing. His first action ability is incredible. Incredible. It's just so versatile is the key part of it, because you can discard one card. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a light or dark card. It doesn't have to be the same element you're naming. You literally just throw away a card and boom, you name that element. And this isn't like Camelot or something where he becomes that element. You're literally just preventing that. So if they tried to stack on top of that and like, wind, get rid of him. Okay, well, fire, get rid of him. You just say, yep, protect from that. And yeah, he's just, wow, he's so strong that way. And his second ability is actually quite good too. And granted, I got the advantage of seeing this at Worlds.
Yeah.
But what people would do is they would leave Hein as this big blocker who's a 9k. And again, he can protect himself. So they wouldn't want to swing into him. And what they would do, what the Hein player would do, is on his opponent's main phase 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Dull Hein, dull 2 of their characters, so now he pops right back up on your turn, and boom, there you didn't like lose him as the blocker. Because that's the thing with these dull abilities, people always think, oh well, you can lose him as the blocker, but he would use it on his opponent's main phase 2, so boom, now he doesn't lose him as a blocker, and his opponent now suddenly doesn't have 2 people protecting him. And it's 2 characters, so again, if there was that crucial backup you needed to get down, like an Edward or a Kate Sith, whatever, he can do that too. So yeah, that proved to be very relevant too. And I remember there was a swing play. A guy actually won the game because his opponent thought, oh, I've still got 2 blockers. He's like, nope, dull him, put him out, and he popped back up. So yeah, this card is fantastic. What a great. I was wondering if anything would give Veritas a run for his money, and this one may.
So I stand corrected. That a second ability sounds like it's actually pretty amazing. I also really love that he doesn't take damage from summons or abilities of the named element. Key. So like Fina Valfor won't actually finish him or do damage to him at all, which is pretty cool. There's really no way around his ability if you can't blank him or something with an Ash.
Right. In the right circumstance, he almost feels unkillable because he also doesn't take damage.
Okay, so awesome. And then damage from summon abilities. So I guess like party attack.
Right,
if you're just big, that works. Okay, awesome. Then we have another dark hero.
Yes, this is Reagan. He is a 5-cost 8k forward. EX Burst, another Sworn 6 of the Palladia. I just started playing Brave Exvius because of all these cards, so I put it on my tablet because I was like, okay, I gotta know what the deal is with all these people. And Reagan is actually Rain's father. I'm just into the story, but they've revealed that already, that Reagan is Rain's father. So his artwork looks great. I love his pose. Like he just, what a great, the look on his face, again, is what made me so curious about this card. Like, is this a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Like, he looks troubled. And it looks like you can see Citra in the back as well, which makes me wonder if Citra is Rain's father. Anyway, I'll get onto the card. So, EX Burst. Yeah. What did I say? Father.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm assuming Citra is Rain's mother and Reagan is his father. Okay. Anyway, EX Burst. When Reagan enters the field, choose one forward or backup other than card name Reagan in your break zone. Add it to your hand. Action ability. You pay 1 of any color, dull Reagan, and you discard a dark card. Choose one forward. It loses 7,000 power until the end of the turn. as seems to be a theme, this card is great. This card's absolutely fantastic. A particular cycle I've seen people do is they will use both Reagan and Emperor Gestal, which is the Dark Legend from Opus 9, and they'll use Gestal to break it forward, break Gestal, put Reagan on the field, and then just pull Gestal right back from the break zone, and just kind of cycle it that way. I honestly haven't seen his action ability used a single time. It's not that it's pricey as much as it's just weird, because the colorless part is fine, but then you have to discard a dark card specifically. So that's a little weird. But in theory, if you could use it, like, losing 7,000 power is incredible. Again, Reagan can basically block anyone at that point, make him lose power, and then he's going to win that trade. And the fact that he's on an EX burst, you don't even care if he gets hit into damage. Like, you can just pull back a forward or a backup, and we know how strong that is. Again, I've had matches where I'll take out someone's Veritas or their Sephiroth or something key, and then they'll be like, all right, Reagan, let me pull that right back. I'm like, oh, no. And it's on a body. So, yeah, he's great. He's really great. I've seen him use to excellent effect so far. I really like him.
Yeah, he is very, very good. And he's even good in elements that already had recursion. So even in Earth, we see him a ton in Earth because he's that valuable. But I mean, think about all the elements that didn't have access to recursion. Now, Mono Water can bring back a Cloud of Darkness late in the game to try and use some removal, or maybe Fire can bring back some heavy hitter, whatever it is. Like, every single element is going to have access to recursion. And I just think it's absolutely crazy. And we're just going to be seeing a lot of him and Citra.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I just realized too, and it's appropriate that they seem to be together, Citra and Reagan have all 4 types covered. Citra can pull back monsters and summons. He pulls back forwards and backups. So between the two of them, granted, most people don't run light and dark together, but still, between the two of them, you can pull back whatever you need to. So very, very strong combo between these two.
Yes. Okay, we're going to do the starter cards as well. So we're moving on to Onion Knight, which is a 3 CP 7k for Job Onion Knight. When Onion Knight deals damage to your opponent, you may search for one card named Onion Knight and add it to your hand. So that's a really cool on damage ability. It draws you a card. I wish there was a way to give this guy haste. Oh, well, he's got 2 specials. Let's read those. The first one is Blade Torrent, which is just discarding one card named Onion Knight. Until the end of turn, Onion Knight gains 1,000 power, haste, first strike, and brave. So if you drop him and you then discard an Onion Knight, he is an 8k brave, first strike, haste. He's likely not getting blocked, which means that he's drawing an Onion Knight. Then he also has an ability, Meteor, which is discard an Onion Knight and tap him. Choose one forward, deal it damage equal to Onion Knight's power. Now, if you've given him haste and brave, he hasn't tapped. He now has haste. He could have attacked already, drawn an Onion Knight, and Meteor is now live because you gave him the haste. You can dull him that same turn and ping one of your opponent's forwards for 8k damage. So it's it's a very cool combination that puts itself online pretty quickly, and I think that's all really cool. The tough part about it is you really have to lean into the Onion Knights and play a lot in your deck, and then so as soon as you play him, you use the first special. You've paid 5 CP for 8k first strike haste brave, which is fine. So 5 CP. If he gets through, you get 2 of that CP back. And even if you don't use Meteor, then he's a 3 CP 7k that did a point of damage. So far, that's not really that special, okay? Because you've got an Onion Knight back into your hand, but now you have a copy of a card that's already on the field. I think that to really get value from this guy, you need to attack at least once more with him so that you've reduced him to 1 CP, and you keep getting CP into your hand, and then just keep on using those specials. But there's just, having played with him, there's just not always opportunities to use the specials. So I don't know, it's like everything about this card reads really well, and it just looks great, and I really, really enjoy playing it, but it just feels bad when you run way too many Onion Knights and you draw a bunch of Onion Knights, and it just kind of, like, sometimes it's kind of a CP sink that doesn't work out as much as you want it to.
So I don't really have any knowledge of the whole Onion Knight archetype and that style of deck, so I don't really know what like a full Onion Knight deck would work. So I'll just comment on a few things. One, like you said, he reads great. He really reads great, but I will trust you that maybe he doesn't play as well. And looking at him, the thing is, I get what they go for when they design cards like this, but when they design them, it almost sometimes feels like they forget how easy it is to remove cards. I mean, he's only a 7K without that special. Like, there's plenty of summons or abilities that can just push him out of the way. And then that whole combo just doesn't even exist anymore. So, yeah, in theory, he sounds great if you can just sit there and continually whack into your opponent over and over again. But, again, how likely is that? So that's the other thought. The only other thing I'll say is how much I like this artwork. Originally, I honestly didn't look at it well enough, but I really like that he has his eyes closed and his blade is glowing. He's kind of doing this concentrative pose where he's leaning down. Like it's really pretty. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got one more card to talk about before we get into our next thing.
The final card of Opus 10, which is Cloud of Darkness. Job Wraith, of course, 3 cost, 7K forward. One of these days, I'll actually get those correct. 3 cost, 7K forward. At the end of each of your turns, remove the top card of your deck from the game. Cloud of Darkness gains 1,000 power for each card removed by Cloud of Darkness's ability. When Cloud of Darkness leaves the field, add 1 card removed by Cloud of Darkness's ability to your hand and put the rest of the cards into the break zone. I like this character a lot in 3, but man, Square must love her because she's got an Ice Legend now, she's got Water Legend, she has another Water character, now she's got a Darkness character. Like, man, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, the artwork is always really good, but I just wonder why they love this character so much. I haven't seen anyone use this, so I can't comment on it from a practical standpoint, but from the moment I read this card, this is not my type of card at all. This is too risky. This is too... First of all, the other Cloud of Darknesses are solid as is. And granted, she's dark, so if you're like running fire, you can use this one. But it's just, so at the end of each of your turns, remove the top card of your deck from the game. Gains 1,000 power. And the thing is, that's not optional. So you are basically milling yourself by 1, and then when she dies, and luckily it's when she leaves the field. So if they have a way to keep her out of the break zone, you still get the effects, so that's good. You only get 1 of those cards back, and the rest go to the break zone. Like, I don't know, maybe if you were building some very specific deck where you had a bunch of junk cards that you didn't mind, but then why would you build a deck with a bunch of junk cards? Like, this is just... And I don't know, like, all of the, thinking about it too now, all of that for 1,000 power, that's it? Like, literally, you're losing cards just so she can gain 1,000 power. No special ability, no, she dull freezes when she attacks, or she makes you lose cards when she attacks, or something really strong. It's 1,000 power. Okay. Oh, wow, she's up to 11K. Cool, Famfrit. Cool, this card, that just removes a 4 or whatever. Like, yeah, the more I think about this, the more I don't like that at all. That's just way too much investment for so little gain, in my opinion.
Okay, so if you're a fan of the podcast, then you'll know that I've talked about this card extensively because when it first got spoiled, I was just like you, Travis. I had basically the same opinion, and then through playing with this card, I have completely fallen in love with it, and it's one of my favorite cards in the entire game.
This will be interesting. All right, let's hear it.
So the way that it ends up working out is that for me, it almost always felt like a better Galdeus, because I'd rather draw a card than make my opponent discard, and they can't play around me drawing a card at all, whereas they could play around Galdeus making them discard. So this was effectively would become a 1 CP beater, because it would draw that card on the way out, and it would usually get up to 8 or 9K. Now, to control the kind of it getting out of control, although when it did get out of control and I couldn't remove it, it often just won me the game because my opponent would never want to block it, and I would just get so much damage that I would close out games. But I often didn't let that happen. I would run this in Ice Earth, and I would use 2 CP Hecaton to be making this fight my opponent's forward. So now I've played a 3 CP forward. that's cheaper than their 4 or 5 CP. I've hecatoned into it, and they lost their 5 CP for it. I lost my 9k Cloud of Darkness, and I also draw a card when she left, so it put me up in a big way. I also use this a ton with Famfrit, to just take a card back, and kind of like when you use Famfrit with Viking, and that was also very good. So I played this in mono water as well. With the other Cloud of Darkness, I'd run a couple of each. And then I also would even use this with stuff like Scholar, where if you're desperate, you can bounce this back to your hand. It left the field, so you draw a card. But it's better than just drawing a card. It's selecting a card from a couple of cards. So if it flips 2 backups and a forward, you can get that forward. Whereas if that was a Viking and that top card was a backup, you're getting the backup. So that selective draw was also very powerful, because oftentimes there'd be something in the pile that would be like a forward or a summon or something that I really wanted. And the whole mill strategy or mill like argument, it is valid, but it only ever matters if you lose, right? So
okay, that's fair.
Right? If you win the game and you have 10 cards in your deck, and those, let's say Cloud of Darkness milled 7 cards over the course of the game, those could have been the bottom 7 cards of your 7 cards on the bottom of your deck that you never would have seen, right? That's the whole mill thing, right? Unless mill actually causes a player to lose or win, it never actually affected the game, because those are all cards you never would have seen. So that's where I don't mind her so much. So I played her in Ice Earth. The cards that she puts into the break zone, I can recur those. The selective draw was very good. I had Hecaton to throw her into things. I ran her in mono water. She got out of control. Just Famfrit her. Otherwise, she turned into a beater. And I had a lot of fun playing her. So I don't know if she's going to be better than Hein or Verdus or Camelot and Reagan, but she's just not a bad card. That's for sure.
Interesting. Well, you argued for that very well. I still don't like her at all. The thing is, again, she's just not my type of play, because what would happen to me is I'll get 4 cards out of her, and I'll pull them back when she dies to pull one in my hand, and I'm going to have 3 or 2 cards in there that I need all of these, or and then it's like, well, I can only take 1. Like, see, I don't like Nail at all either. The Opus 9 Fire Legend, and some people love him, and I have come around to the idea that, well, even if he doesn't hit forwards, you're getting rid of dead cards. But I saw on the World stream, there was one time a guy did Nail, and I think he lost both a Kusith and a Mist Dragon to it, and he needed those summons. I was like, yeah, I bet you wish you had those now. Like, so I'm glad you got use out of it, because this card just is not my style.
Yeah. Hey, well, fair enough. Yeah, no, it's definitely a card I'm going to play with again, but okay, so we're going to move on, and we are going to talk about Opus 10 as a whole. We're going to chat about our favorite cards from each element, and maybe our most disappointing cards or least favorite, or something that didn't work out for us. But we're not going to mention any legends, because I think that we've talked a lot about the legends, and other people are talking about the legends. So we're just going to keep it to hero, common, and rare. With that said, we're going to start in the fire element, and I'll just quickly mention that my favorite card in fire is still Ignacio, and he's just a big value machine, and I mean, we've talked about him a lot, but I think that he's kind of, in the end, he's panned out for me. He hasn't been too slow, and I think that he's just a really cool card draw engine for fire.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For me, I'm torn between a couple, Geomancer and Zach. I think I'm going to go with Zach. Zach just feels great, and when I used him in my 7 deck the other night for the first time, like, man, it feels so good to put down a 7 forward, especially if there's 7 fire forward. Like, if you drop the Light Cloud that does 7k when it enters, or the Opus 8 Cloud that does 3k plus your damage, oh, it feels so good, because just ping, 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 ping. And it fits him in the 7 archetype. So, like, yeah, Zach is probably my favorite fire guy. I like him a lot. As far as disappointing ones, for right now, I'm going to have to go with Caius. And I don't think that Chaos is necessarily bad, but I cannot make this card work. Maybe I suck. Maybe I don't know how to play it. Because sometimes I've gone for the early game. You know what? I'm going to take the risk. And I literally played him turn 1, got a free backup. And of course, my opponent had, I happen to have instant removal for him. And so then I lost him in the backup. Like, maybe I've just had terrible luck, but every time I've played this card, he immediately dies. Immediately. It doesn't matter. Like, I cannot keep him on the board. I've tried playing him later in the game. He just dies. And so he just dies, and then I have to sack something else. Like, yeah. So he has not worked out well for me.
You know what? I didn't really have one for fire, but then I was thinking about it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to say Caius as well. And I haven't played Caius yet, but I just haven't seen other people play him, and I thought, this was going to be such a cool card, and it just seems like it's not working out for the people I've talked to so far.
Same problem, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I wonder if you could use him to play Rampiers, and then your opponent might not ever want to kill your Caius because they know that you have an automatic way to break your Rampier. That could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, you might be onto something there.
Okay, cool. So next up is going to be Ice, and the card that I've been super into, and I wonder if we have the same card, is the 3 CP Sephiroth Hero card. And it's just been everything that I hoped it would be. The back attack is incredible. The special's nice. The damage 5 is good. The doll and everything. And just like we hypothesized, there's no issues running this and the 7 CP at the same time. You don't really have to worry about that being too much of a downside. It honestly just works fine. So that worked out pretty well.
Absolutely. I played Mono Ice at my locals tonight, and I got to try this for the first time, and I ran it with the, Opus 7 Legend Sephiroth. And it's the first time I've run basically 6 of a named card, and it never felt bad. They both have specials, so you can sack each other. And just that back attack dull, and especially if you're on 5 damage, which I had a couple times, and I was playing Mono Ice, so I had Duke Larg, boom, surprise 9k blocker. Like, he felt great, so I will join you in the Sephiroth. And a special little shout out to the White Tiger Lassie Kunmi, because I got to try that a couple, and that feels good. There's a nice little threat there of like, hey, I'm going to make you overpay for your summon. As far as disappointment in Ice, something I want to say Genova Synthesis, because that card sucks, and I don't like it at all. But okay, so I'm going to split hairs here. It's not that they're a disappointment, but I did run the new Eldnersh and Camelot tonight. And I don't know. They just didn't quite feel as good as I wanted them to be. And maybe I didn't use their full potential yet. I do like that they have the backup that searches for them. But like the Camelot, I kind of almost wish I had the dark one every time because he's just stronger and he's got his self-protection. And the Eldnersh just felt kind of weird to play in Mono Ice because he has that great ability where he like dulls 3 things when he comes in. But at least in my scenarios, I would only end up playing him as the only forward, so nothing could attack off of him to give you that bonus. So I would just dull them and then pass the turn, and so it didn't do anything. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's such a hard spot. Like, you could just run Orphan and probably get way more out of it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it has a discount, but what's the type 0 category character that you run with White Tiger to give her that power boost?
Well, unfortunately, like a fool, I didn't run that because but you know who would be, because I was trying her in Mono Ice and I just wanted to try out some of the new cards, so I threw her in there. But you know who I should run, which I need to own him to do it, is Sid Alstein. Yeah. Because he's great in Mono Ice and he would give her that power boost as well. So and I believe my buddy Stephen Riley and Stephen Yim, your friend, he told me at the end of the night, I guess there's another White Tiger Lassie. Yes. And it can be run with this one, and it also has, like, they have to pay an extra 3. And they were saying you could technically do that together and make them pay, like, an extra 6 CP to get, whatever they have off. So that's an interesting idea.
Well, you can't play them at the same time, I don't think. I think they're the same name.
Well, they said they could. They said there was a name. I don't know. I don't know hard enough. But
I think they're literally the same character, so I don't think... I have to look into that, but I'm pretty sure they're the same character. Okay, so I'd say Sarah is my disappointment so far. And you know what, though? It's still really early. But she has not pulled her weight in when I've seen her played, and when I've had a chance to play around with her myself. So I think that's the one that I'm going to downvote.
So I just looked it up. No, wait. White Tiger Lassie, Kunmi, White Tiger Lassie, Kunmi. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they can't be played together. Can I prop Sarah for a second?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I played Sarah tonight, and she felt pretty good. I got to do the Mog combo for a little bit. I can understand why people would think she's like not quite as good, but in particular, a line of play that I realized as I was doing her was with Mog on the field with Duke Larg. She was a 9K blocker. Again, I played her in mono ice. And what I would do is I'd leave her up as a blocker, and then either at the end of my opponent's turn or during their attack phase, I could block with her, and then on the stack, flip her and put the Mog in the zone. So that way it dulls two characters on their turn, freezes it, so then on my turn, she comes back up as a blocker, similar to how we discussed with Hein earlier. So that did feel good.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to go. I mean, I'll have to try her. I was trying her in 13, and I think mono ice might be more interesting. Okay, awesome. For Wind, my favorite card, a card that's been everything I've wanted it to be, is the Pinello backup, the rare that does 1k to the board. It's a 1 CP discount on Dancer, and turns out that's good. And you know who else thought so? A lot of the Wind Water players at Worlds.
Yeah, they did.
They were using it to top up their damage, and that worked out the way that I thought it would. Yeah.
Awesome. We're not picking Legends, because otherwise I'd totally pick Sid Brevia, because so cool. So I will go with Unsogadashi, who was also seen at Worlds, and I don't remember the match, but it was one of the final matches, and he presented such a threat. And remember, I think the guy eventually did something to break him. I think it was like Shantoto or something, but he was just that threat on the board, and the guy was like, well, I can't swing in because he's just going to activate everything and then completely protect them. So yeah, he is kind of everything I'd hoped he would be, and he's got such great artwork. I like him a lot. As far as disappointments for Wind, I liked all the Sky Pirates were fine.
Well, I'll jump in and I'll quickly say that
go ahead.
Kites has not worked out for me so far. I've never used his Pay to Wind to bring him back ability yet, and I also haven't really used his Power Boost. I've used maybe like one time. So overall, I don't know. I think he's potentially cuttable, or at least I need to test Sky Pirates out without him to see if I miss him. But yeah, he hasn't been great so far.
That's fair. Okay, I feel a little bad picking this card because I haven't tested it at all, but I also haven't seen anyone else test it, and that's the Aerith, the 4-cost Aerith. Man, like, in theory, she seems like she'd be good, but no one's picking her, and I just don't think you're ever going to see her over the Opus 8 one. Maybe unless you have Tidal or something where you can really take advantage of the 7-character thing. But yeah, so she just hasn't seemed to create the buzz I was hoping she would.
Okay, so moving on to Earth, my favorite card so far is like a 30-way tie between all Earth cards, but it's if I had to pick, oh gosh, it's so hard. I have to pick Titan, and I just honestly, Titan's always been a good summon. It's worked out for me a ton when I'm playing Earth, and I'm pretty happy with it. And I just want to say right now, I'm not disappointed in any Earth card. They're all great. I love them.
Not even Warrior of Light?
Yeah, well, we're not mentioning Legends, so.
Okay. That's fair, because I was going to mention Shantoto next, too.
Yeah.
Earth did get some really fun cards, I agree. Has some of the most enjoyable cards in the set. I got to play some Mono Earth tonight, and man, this is tough. There's a lot of ones I want to pick, but I'm also going to have to go with that Titan. I can't tell you how good it feels to literally tap a single backup and go boom, 1,000. And I have Graviton in the Mono Earth deck I'm using, so 1,000 power to this forward plus 2,000 off Graviton and draw a card. And I didn't even get to use, like, I wasn't playing against a deck that would use the whole Everyone Brave, nothing can be dulled effect, but I imagine that feels incredible, especially if you're going against lightning or ice. He's just so good, and he's so cheap, so cheap. I got to cast all 3 of them in my last match. That felt great. Disappointments. It's hard to say because, again, I think they all actually worked out pretty well and to the way you would expect them. For disappointment, I'm just going to say Bosch. Bosch really could have been a lot better than he was. And it's just a shame he got handicapped by such a strange effect. And this card's never even going to see play.
Total waste of a Bosch name.
Yeah, complete waste. And again, it's just such a strange effect that the whole, again, the first 2 you'll probably resolve every once in a while, like 2, 4. But the having to have 7 cards, like, that's so weird. Like, yeah. So he was a letdown.
Don't believe Ondor's lies.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to Lightning, there's so many cards that I'm super into, so I'm gonna do a really quick. I guess I'll do like an honorable mention to Desh, who's been so much fun to play with, and I just love that card. And then my favorite card is going to be Kanaka Maoli, which is another card that saw play at Worlds, which I was so excited about. And
they were selling me on that card. I was like, ooh, maybe I should put that in my Scions.
Yeah, it's on. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. I love that card. I love that it's like a 3 CP monster that's actually pretty decent. So that's great. And then the card that I'm disappointed with, but I'm still holding out hopes for, is Sakura. I just haven't. It's not good enough to run a 2 of or higher, so I run it as a 1 of. And when it's good, it's really good. Like, man, does it power the deck up? But then it's tough to set up. So it's not been as good as I hoped.
I'll go in reverse because you and I share the same opinion on Sakura. I'm sorry. This card needed to work with El Cid. It really did. Or some other lightning combo. I love the artwork, but I just don't like it. It is a disappointment. For me, as much as I Kanaka Maoli, I gotta go with the card that I honestly think has changed the game, which is Rampier.
Oh yeah,
this card is so good and was so prominent at Worlds. People were literally referring to any deck as a Rampier deck. Oh, he's playing a Rampier deck. They titled the deck after this single card, and to see the plays this thing could make with Kane or with any other way to break a backup, and boom comes the Shantoto, boom comes whatever, brutal, man. It made for some brutal turns. You know it's something when, again, this Opus hasn't even been out a month and people are already like, oh, that's the Rampier deck. You're playing the Rampier. That's crazy.
Okay, awesome. Moving into Water, my favorite card so far, it's really been fun to play, is Gilgamesh. So we talked about it a lot already. It's just a very powerful card, and it's just got so many applications. And I think it's one of those cards that's just always going to be seeing some testing. So hopefully we'll get to see more of him in the meta, since he didn't make an appearance at Worlds as far as I saw. Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't feel like I didn't see much Mono Water, and I don't think you'd run him outside of Mono Water.
And you know what? I thought we'd at least see a little bit. We only saw the top 16, so we don't know.
Right.
Necessarily, unless we saw it on stream, but there may have been a Mono Water there that we didn't know about.
Right.
And then
Square, if you're listening, if there's some way to stream more than just 1 match per round, that would be awesome. I know that's probably asking a lot, but because there was 32 people there, but you only got to see 1 person every of the 5 rounds, so that's a lot of matches you didn't get to see.
Yeah, I think hopefully we'll eventually get there, because it's Worlds and you want to see more matches. I know a few Crystal Cups did that with a rail system where they could scoot their camera down the rail to the next table, and just start the next match as soon as the first one was over, so that you could just get more matches, which is really cool. So I wonder if that's something they could try in the future, but it's so expensive and time consuming, the whole thing.
I get it.
Okay, disappointing card is going to be Leviathan, and again, this is one that I'm holding out hope for. I think I'm just not used to playing it, or I haven't played it in Fusa yet. So that's probably why it's been disappointing. But it's just such a cool card, and I wanted to play it, so I did. But I think it's got to just be at home at Fusa.
We are simpatico today, sir. My disappointment was also Leviathan. I'll test it some more, and I hope my opinion on it comes up. But I don't know. Like, there's this feeling to this card that you're not doing anything, which is weird because you obviously are. You're drawing 2, and then you get to replace something from your hand. Like, I don't know. Like, I think maybe it's just a comparison thing because I took out Bismarck to put this guy in, and compared to the Opus 8 Leviathan or Famfrit or Bismarck, all those cards are combat tricks, and they are strong combat tricks. You know, I ran against a buddy tonight who did Mono Water, and he Bismarcked me 5 times in a row because he had Citra and Porum. And I can't win a battle. I can never win a battle when this thing's cutting my power in half for 1 CP because he's got Yuna out for a single backup. Like, so to compare that to Leviathan, who just kind of shuffles your cards around, and what if you don't even get anything good? Like, yeah, he hasn't worked out the way I would like to. I think you're right. I think he'd be best used in Fusoya when you can purposely stack the top of the deck, make that EX burst go off. For my one that I really liked, since you already mentioned Gilgamesh, I'll actually mention Cecil, or Cecil. He's been surprisingly good, and I've seen him pop up. Quite a few people have already tested him out, especially because not everyone wants to run one of the 4 water Cecils, and in particular, his wording is very specific, and I told a buddy about this. You know, during this turn, if a forward you control is dealt damage, reduce the damage by 2,000. And that's for the entire turn. That's not just that whatever's hitting him. That's for the entire turn. And I forgot to mention this in our water review, so I'll get to touch it here. Scions of the Seventh Dawn is my favorite deck, and I play the 4-cost 4 Thancred, and that Thancred has an effect when he's dull. All the damage he takes gets reduced by 2,000, and that makes them surprisingly resilient. I remember I did that to a guy. He blocked my Thancred with a Zidane, and then he tried to Fusoya me, and I was like, you know that's not going to kill him, right? He's like, what? I was like, yeah, because it's -2 from Zidane, -2 from Fusoya. So Cecil making it for the rest of the turn, any damage they take, that's 2,000 off, especially against like a fire deck or something or wind that's trying to ping you a lot. That Valifor Fina combo suddenly goes down by 2,000 a piece. So instead of getting 8K, you're only taking 4K. Like, that's really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that Cecil's definitely grown on me quite a bit, and if I didn't play the other one so much, I would have to consider giving it a try. Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's going to be it from us for these set reviews, unless, Travis, you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I guess it'd be pointless to say the light ones and dark since we just talked about that. I just want to give an over. So I started playing this game at the end of Opus 7, so I'm still a relatively new player. I've really only been playing about a year now. Maybe even a little less. And this is probably my favorite Opus so far. In particular, it really lived up to the theme of Ancients and Champions. I'm a huge Final Fantasy nut. That's why I started playing this game, because like, oh, Final Fantasy is a trading card game? That's great. And so this Opus was so enjoyable because I know all these characters. And the characters I didn't know, I now want to play their games to learn about them. Like, whereas some of the other Opuses, you know, they bring in characters that's just like, who is that? I have no idea who that is. This felt like, yes, all the big people are getting a card. They're getting representation. So that really felt great. The artwork in general across the board has just gotten better and better. Really enjoyed the artwork. And the effects. All of the card, like, this Opus, it felt like they really put a lot of thought into this Opus. Like, there's a lot of unique effects. There's very few just outright bad cards in this set. It feels like everything, even something maybe you won't ever use in Constructed, like, it feels like it has a place. So overall, I've really enjoyed Opus 10. I'm so glad I bought 2 boxes for it. Opus 11 is going to have a hard time living up to this. I know it's got the counters coming out and everything, but yeah, this one for me has kind of set the bar as like, this is a damn good Opus. So bravo, well done.
I totally agree. I'm absolutely loving this Opus so far, and I'm very happy with it. And I loved seeing all the new decks at Worlds. And you know what? Opus 11 has a good shot at doing the same thing, because I saw that Earth card and I thought it was so cool with the counters. But we'll have to see the rest of the cards to really make that judgment. So I'm sure that, you know, Travis and I will be working together in the future. So this isn't the last that you'll have seen of us. But this will be the end of our Opus 10 set review. So thank you so much if you've watched them all. And even if you just watched one, you know, you're still fine. And we'll catch you later. So
final thoughts from me. Thank you all for watching. Major thank you to you, Alex. I really appreciate you letting me jump on board and join you for this. If you don't read Alex's blogs or watch his other videos, I highly recommend you do. I found him when I was getting into the game and I'm about it. He's such a nice guy. He knows what he's talking about. He's just a great all-around person to work with and read, and he works really hard on his content. So please support him. He absolutely deserves it.
Well, thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. So for the Mysidia Post, this has been Alex Scott.
And Travis Pfeifer.
And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. You can like and subscribe to support us further, and you can read the Mysidia Post articles at themysidiapost.com. You can also check out our Patreon if you want to support us more. And if you need FFTCG singles, then look no further than Cards That You Release. They've got great deals and prices. Check them out. Finally, I'd like to thank FF Decks for creating the best website for creating your Final Fantasy trading card game decks. They've also got a Patreon, so make sure you go check them out. They work so hard for the community, so let's pay them back. See you next time.